It is 5:32. I'll call the meeting to order. Public Safety Building Committee meeting for Monday, January 8th, 2018. First order of business is approval of meeting minutes. So I know meeting minutes for December 5th, 11th, and 26th were circulated to the committee. The 19th were not. Mr. Lyons is still working on them, he said. As you can tell by the length of them, it takes a little time to compile them. So I'm going to go first, I guess, as everyone had a chance to review them. Are there any comments on Tuesday the 5th? This was a presentation to Board of Selectmen. I had a few that I'll just announce so that we can make a motion. The first was just denoting who was not there to be consistent with prior minutes. There's a typo saying that the Chiefs are in favor of a single driveway. I assume they would like us to change that to not in favor of a single driveway. I had I think there's a typo under a comment by Lisa Braccio indicating that she was in favor of a single driveway. I don't remember anyone being in favor of a single driveway, and that was it. So I was just going to propose those changes to Mr. Lyons. So I'll move that we accept them with those edits. Is there a second?
Second.
Kathy is seconded. All right. Any further discussion on this? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? And one abstention. All right, we're going to go to the 11th. That was the meeting at Town Hall. Any comments on this one? The only comment that I had was to note the time that we lost our quorum at the planning board meeting, and to note that we were there into the planning board session, and to add reference to the email that I read into the record about the bond council discussion, given the importance of that to the golf committee more than this committee. So any other comments on the 11th? There a motion to accept these as edited?
Motion to accept them as edited.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kathy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Yeah, all right,
Good,
so
sorry.
carries unanimously. Brennan is trying to keep up and found out he was the clerk for the meeting about 2 minutes before the meeting. Next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from the 26th. Rudy, you can just pull that.
Okay. Picture on table? No.
We can scoot.
Big shot.
Only, this was from Mr. Moorhead to these minutes. My only comment on this was just a procedural thing that because Mr. Lyons dialed in, there are certain procedural comments we need to add in terms of when he dialed in, that it was accepted by the chair, and because he did join us halfway through the meeting when he joined us. So those are my only edits to those particular minutes. Are there any other questions, comments on the 26th meeting minutes? Is there a motion?
I had just one.
Okay.
In my commented mine, or made a quote of me somewhere.
Pete Goodney provided.
It should be not cut, but carried.
Carried. It says hard to carry straight.
Yeah, it's hard to carry it.
Okay. All right. Is there any further items on the 26th meeting minutes? Motion to accept those as edited.
I make a motion to accept those as edited.
Is there a second?
Second.
David seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And I
So
assume one abstention. Okay. All right. Only one more to go on that one. Chairman's update. I have two very brief updates. The first, which you'll hear again at the planning board meeting tonight, is I am in receipt of a letter from the superintendent indicating their agreement with the proposed access way and how the driveway is going to work, indicating that they will have a gate at the end of that driveway that they will have to open it every time they want to let buses through it. And they're understanding that should they choose to make future enhancements to that driveway area, that they're gonna subject themselves to a planning process which may include inclusion of a traffic light. My goal with the letter is, it's been provided to planning sometime this afternoon. I provided to planning as soon as I got it. I may or may not read it into the record depending upon whether they forgot it, but my goal with that letter, and thanks to the school committee and superintendent for furnishing it, is that it would resolve any questions of how that driveway would be utilized, and also provide a permanent record of what the school department's intention was versus this committee's intention was. So I have the letter if anyone wants to see it. We will certainly post it on our website, but I just wanted to reference that. The second is the planning board meeting itself, so that is right after this. We're gonna recess and go up there to the extent we decide to continue to have a quorum. I've talked to the chair of the planning board. I just provide an update of where we're at as a committee, and hopefully help to guide the process before turning it over to Jeff, because I think a lot of the items that are still outstanding, there's a few technical items, but I'd say a lot of them are just operational, time to kind of, this is what we're doing, and really say, you know, the committee has spoken loud and clear, and I've asked the chiefs to, if they are not going to be in attendance, to also give us, you know, their complete and 100% buy-in, that they are on board with everything that Jeff has presented to planning, just so that there is no ifs, ands, or buts about the plans and who's approved them and who hasn't, because that just generated a lot of what I'll call back and forth that didn't really need to happen at the last meeting. So I think we're just looking to kind of put a hard line in the sand. I think the only complication comes that there was a Conservation Commission meeting scheduled for last Thursday night. As we all know, there was a blizzard, so that was canceled. I guess it wasn't a blizzard, but it was a bad snowstorm. And usually planning does not approve without conservation being on board. My intention with my opening tonight would be, is if the planning board has no further items for Jeff and his team, that they approve the project with the, of course, the caveat that if conservation were to throw a wrinkle into any of the plans, that they would come back before them. But if the plans stay as is, and I'll let Jeff comment on what he believes is still open with conservation, if anything, then there's no reason we should have to then have another public meeting with planning, and there can be some due process here. The unfortunate part of conservation is they then delayed the meeting 2 weeks. I have voiced my concern to the chair of the Conservation Commission. I sent an email and asked him that he try to pull something together sooner, that this is not a standard project. This is, and I'm really legitimate, and I asked Jeff and Ellen and team, you know, what does a 2-week delay do to us? And at this time, 2 weeks does potentially impact when the bid packages go out, come in, and ultimately we get the shovels in the ground. I think we have to be living under a rock to realize that the construction industry is hot right now, and I don't think that that's changing anytime soon given the incentives coming out of Washington. Personal opinion, but I continue to be of that belief based on everything I read. So I think we as a town need to do everything we can to push this project forward. I don't hear residents sitting up there complaining about the project. I don't hear a residential concern causing an issue. So I have also notified the selectmen of my concern with the Conservation Commission's hearing delay, because my worst case scenario is planning defers it tonight. Conservation comes back with a change 2 weeks from now. Then Jeff has to then go and do some more work or respond to that. Then we have to appear before both boards again at whatever schedule they deem necessary. I'm trying to catch the train before it really does derail. So I do think that there may be some selectmen that would hopefully help us in that regard. Conservation is a appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So that is part of my concern there. It's just that we helped them
You've
with
heard
this.
back from your last
Chairman?
correspondence with him as far as?
He said, I corresponded, I believe it was on Thursday, so the day of the snowstorm, and he said, you know, we're trying. I haven't heard back. I'm not optimistic. I know Mr. Purple was going to continue to follow up with the conservation agent, but I mean, I can't force a meeting. I can't call a meeting of a committee, but I can at least put in writing my concern of the delay. So that's what I've done. Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, question tonight, is it just an update that you're going to be giving to the planning board, or do you want, you know, us to?
So my view is en masse is always better than one solo, but I believe the correspondence from context has been, you know, this is kind of out of their hands. They've
Yeah,
done what they
right.
can. So I plan to get up and speak at the beginning and obviously speak during it if an issue presents itself. I'm hoping reasonable minds come together and it goes swimmingly, and I'm over-engineering it is what I'm hoping for, but I think it would save all of us a lot of headache if we just kind of go en masse to the extent people's schedules allow and we're posted, so anyone can speak if they think it's appropriate.
Okay.
So that's really my update. I think it's just an important thing for everyone to be aware of, and I don't know what else I can do, but I'm trying.
Well, I think your plan's sound, and so, be firm.
All right. In terms of a design update, I don't know if Context has anything they want to bring before us, any updates they want to provide in advance of tonight in terms of the issues you think may.
I don't think there's anything that you guys particularly need to hear from us. There's some things that we are still working out with the chiefs. Before we start, you saw some various groups. So there's a bunch of technical stuff we're working out with them as they start to get more of these details done, but there's really nothing else for you to decide at this point. I think the bigger decision that you made in December was the exterior appearance of the building, which was huge. Thank you.
I guess, in your view on conservation, is your view that the comments that were provided by Fuss and O'Neill, you think you've resolved them, you will resolve them? Do you think any of them are, you know, subject to a lot of back and forth in a hearing, or is it just purely speculative?
What would you
Well,
say?
my
It's really
understand-
with our consultant, obviously, it's not us specifically, but
My understanding of it is that he feels, distance from the wetlands of the stormwater. So, he feels he's on sound ground. He feels that that's
Am I correct in that that item is on both the planning
It is.
and conservation purview? So
Yes, it is.
we'll kind of hear a review tonight of
Yes, it's the exact
Fuss and
same.
O'Neill, who's the peer reviewer, stands.
Exact same question.
Yeah, okay, all right, sounds good, well, that was easy. Update on pre-submission RFQ process from the owner's project manager.
Pre-qualification?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Pre-qualification.
What he said. I have a handout for you because this is an update on who has returned or who's requested packages so far. Very good response so far. We've got 57 firms that have responded. Of the plus 2 firms that are at the bottom of the second page, which are more just listing services, Project Dog and Construct Connect. Those are just, let's call it professional central register folks. You know, some vendors out there do look at those trade magazines, which basically troll the public notification system, pull the stuff in, and just give another avenue for us to get our information out there. It was open last Wednesday, including a snow day. So we've got a couple areas of concern. You know, given the fact that you see some sections here where we have no response so far. Doesn't mean we won't get a boatload of them tomorrow. You know, whether that be windows, whether that be tile or acoustical tile. But what that does to us is that when these responses are due, just bear with me, pull up my calendar here. These responses are due on the 24th. If any of these don't have at least 3, I will immediately re-advertise on the Thursday for the next Wednesday in each of those categories again, so that we try again. 2 attempts. After 2 attempts, you as the committee have the purview to go into not pre-qualifying a section and just doing it as a regular filed sub-bid, and which is what I would more than likely recommend. The positive is that when I look at the general contractor section of this on the back page, you know, we've already got 9 who are looking at this. That's great.
Isn't that more than you thought we were gonna get?
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't mean let's submit
let's
it,
see
right?
how many they actually submit. You know, somebody pulling this package doesn't mean they're going to submit to us.
So these are people who pulled the package, that's all they've done.
That's all they've done. So we won't know who's going to, what they will do is there's a Form 1 that's attached to this. They're supposed to fax them back. You know, do I have 57 of them yet? It's essentially their commitment. It's not really a commitment because on the day of their due, they might not send it in anyway. It just gives you a little bit of an extra to do this. So from the jobs we've done this on, this is a very good response for the first 4 days. If we don't start seeing some folks in some of these other categories, we'll make a few phone calls. You know, I'll give a list from a prior job to, you know, one of my engineers and just say, are interested in pulling the plan. So I would say overall, or anything like that at this point. The only thing, actually, let me pull back on that for a second. Mr. Purple confirmed that the ad for the newspaper didn't run on day 1. The newspaper got the 3 weeks that we gave everybody else. We did it through the Central Register. Not a big deal, but we'll adjust. Yeah, we'll adjust that.
Go ahead, Mr. Officer.
I'm going to be working with you folks on the pre-qualification. Off the bat, just as I look at this list, I see at least 3 companies that I've represented that are on here. Question, comment.
I think
And you don't need an answer
I
for
think
that.
you're out right now. You'd have to do some sort of disclosure.
Anyway,
I think we're splitting them up.
We're splitting up the
tasks.
references.
Okay.
Just the references. So everybody, so pick a firm, you know, Fontaine Brothers Construction. All 4 of us need to look through Fontaine's package. What we don't do is have all 4 of us call references.
Right.
Because that just a waste of everybody's time. So typically what we do for the references is our firm and the architect will typically this long matrix of everybody's scores for each person. I give you the numbers for the reference. You know, basically the way the references are scored are how many good references did you get versus how many bad, not the quality of the reference. It's either good or bad, you know.
So David has to not opine on the 3 that he's represented.
How about this? Let me know.
Here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna do whatever is appropriate from a state ethics perspective, if you'd like to continue in that capacity. I think this committee should appoint a alternate if Mr. Officer is advised not to partake in this subcommittee. So we don't have to meet again to appoint him. So I don't know if there's any other volunteers that would like to put themselves forward should Mr. Officer end up being advised not to proceed.
Do you currently represent them or have represented?
We're gonna let state ethics deal with this.
Okay.
We're not,
So it's you, me,
I'm
John?
not part of it.
Okay, who's
It's
on the
you
committee?
and David.
That's it?
That's
There's
it.
the two of us.
I thought you said 4.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah, there was
4. Or 4, I don't know which one of these two is.
Yeah.
Jeff's not
But it's a
committing right
public
now.
body because two
I
of
was
us
gonna
are
say, I
on it,
suspect I
we
know.
needed 2 people. So I don't know if there's any other volunteers that would volunteer to act as an alternate should Mr. Officer not be able to proceed with his appointment.
So this was to go over the financial statements and so on, basically, was that what it was?
So
That's what I think.
this is project, you look at their management structure, you look at their reference, project experience, and you look at their references. References are both project references and credit, financial statements. So what we talked about divvying up with the references and then using your expertise on the financial statement side to tell the rest of us, is this good or bad? The financial statements are only provided by the GCs. The subs have a different metric for their financial capability to do the project, and it's really more their bonding capacity and their DCAM capacity versus, the value of the trade. That the roof on this job is worth $800,000. Everything's based off that $800,000. The GCs, it's a deep dive. It's a deeper dive. You actually get to see financials that will typically come when the 4 copies come. They'll only send 1 because it's considered confidential. So that's why we usually give the financial statements to 1 person to go through.
What was the second thing you said the subs have to, besides bonding capacity, what was the second thing?
Decant, we said.
DCAM.
Well, so what are you saying?
Their DCAM certificate. No,
DCAM?
yeah, so. Meeting,
That's
we're gonna go through all that. When these come in, we're gonna get together and we'll have a good kickoff.
So, is there anyone that Mr. Officers
Like a couple extra meetings, is that what it is, pretty much?
No, basically what we'll do is we'll get together once, either can we do a phone conference?
anytime you have the 2 members that are appointed, has to be a public meeting.
You have 2 separate meetings with each one, though. 1 each.
Still a quorum.
We're going to have a meeting to kick it off, probably when these are due we're gonna come out on a Wednesday, we kick it a couple days to a Friday. We'll probably get together that split week between January and February, last week of January, first week of February, where we give them all out. And then we've got about 2 weeks to go do all your homework. As you finish scoring, you can send me the sheets. I will score them, we'll get together to talk about references kind of one last time. And then, no more than, the first meeting will be quick, the second meeting will be a little longer. And really only if there are problems. If there's folks that we've gone through that are no issue, no issue. References are good, great, they're approved. Usually the problems come up if there's a reason why we don't want to qualify somebody. Either a bad reference or something that's just not in the best interest of the town to do it.
So you're not ranking, you're just saying go or no go.
Exactly. Basically.
And John, is the problem that you have a problem with the references and there's nobody else to fill the slots, right? I mean, if somebody's disqualified, you get rid of them. And then we got 3 more, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you can get rid of people.
You can. The issue where that gets touchy is if, let's say, HVAC guys only have 4 right now. If suddenly we don't pre-qualify 2 of them, we've just put ourselves in a situation where we have to go back and try again to get a 3rd, which costs us 3 weeks. A week on so.
But that could be the same 3 weeks on all trades.
Correct. But so the ones where we don't get enough immediately, that's why I said we
Makes both.
we right away. The next day, we open the envelopes, we don't have it. I didn't get any acoustical ceiling guys, I didn't get an elevator guy. I will have it written already, because I'll know if they didn't pull the packages, I know I gotta do it again. The problem becomes those sections where we lose somebody because we don't pre-qualify them, and now we've dropped below 3. In that instance, I've gotta wait till the group comes back with their feedback, and then we gotta go out again. And the process has to be done before we bid the job. So this does have the possibility of delaying the job a little bit. So that's why when the homework goes out, we really have to stick to the week or 2 to get it done. And it's a lot of work, but when it's done, it's done. And hopefully we get a few more numbers, so that's not an issue of losing someone in the interim that drops us below 3.
But there really is some time to be spent here, because if you end up with 80 on here by the time it's all said and done, that's 20.
But what I will tell you is that once you get, they fill it out, it's in a specific order. You get to know where the information is. You don't have to read every word. Everything is a table, and you're going to those tables, and you'll find that you'll be in it.
I'm talking about the referencing, the reference phone calls.
The
You don't
referencing-
make 20 sets of phone calls.
References is a pain. We typically, the way we get through it is with, we have better luck with an email. So we'll find the contact name of the person, we'll get it in an email form. In fact, if we have to change the date, one of the things I would suggest is including an email with your references, because for us, we have a pre-made form, very straightforward, how are they doing? And then how are they to work with, a couple of questions, and then on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank them? 0 being, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And you can get someone to answer an email a lot better than leaving a message.
I can tell you from personal experience,
Yeah.
because we're constantly, because that's where we work with these firms all the time, and so we're constantly getting emails and phone calls to pre-qualify, because it's much bigger now. But we will far easier to respond to an email, like when you're mobile especially, than trying to find time to call somebody back, so.
You don't can always get the
Emails are a
straight
lot
story.
easier. Well, it's usually like
Who's
ranking
gonna
it
put-
on a scale from 1 to 5, or, sometimes it's yes or no questions.
We haven't talked about what our
So,
questions are gonna be, but they'll be the same questions.
Right, so we're gonna have a
Yeah.
template for the questions,
Yeah.
so we all send out the same email, right?
this sounds like a great conversation. Not for the full committee. So we need a second representative should Mr. Officer, not be able to proceed.
The more I look at this list, that's probably gonna happen. Because there are also people who've been on the other side of cases that I've had. So I'm not sure they're gonna be comfortable with me.
Okay, wait, do you want to remove yourself from the committee?
Yeah,
now?
I think I'd be more comfortable with that.
Okay, all right, so we will be appointing a second member now then, to assist Ms. Cook. So, Mr. Goodney, are you still interested after hearing?
Trust
Is there
me.
anyone else interested in assisting with this process? With nothing against you, just, I have to ask Mr. Rooney, just because of the work he did when we were vetting the owner's project manager. If he is at all interested
I'm
or.
similarly disqualified. I can tell you that with regards to these general contractors, I represented a number of them on indemnity claims against subcontractors.
Okay.
I've been on their side, but still, I don't think it's a good perception.
Would you be interested? He did this, didn't he, at some point?
What was John Lyons?
John was not part of the pre-qualification
He's
team.
familiar with it.
I don't think he was, right? Yeah.
So my suggestion is
He's an
that.
alternate, he wants it.
He's not here, volunteer.
Here's the meeting.
That's how it works. You gotta make some meetings.
So I think, Mr. Goodney, it sounds like you are free and clear. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Peter Goodney to the, get the word right, the pre-qualification subcommittee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wood. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, the only question I have, Jason, is can we do this if it's not on the agenda?
Do you have anything brought on the agenda that says anything brought forth before the?
I have update on the pre-sub RFQ process on
Okay,
the OPM,
good
so I
enough.
think that
Sounds good?
Cover it.
Okay.
I think we are going above it, my personal opinion, I think we are going above and beyond by forming the subcommittee
Yeah.
and doing this in the public, open eyes, so I think we're doing the right thing here. So, there's a motion on the table, it has been seconded. Appreciate that question. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks, Pete.
Any opposed?
Thank you,
Pete. Was that a vote or an abstention?
Did I vote? I don't know.
That's your personal
That's what
vote.
we said.
Yeah, he voted, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
All in, that carried unanimously, Mr. Rooney.
Question about this sheet here.
Yes.
Do these people put their, this should be a yes or no question. Does these people put their names down knowing the timeline that which we're operating?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. I am going to skip the next item, radio communication update, because I'm going to back into how much time we have for that, based on, I just want to get through one other thing. So, everyone's provided in advance of the meeting. I've worked with Mr. Lemieux. We are going to have one letter supporting all of the invoices for every month, so that theoretically, if no one has any specific questions on any invoice that's been presented, it'll just be a blanket approval. The only one that he will not include in that letter will be his own, because he can't really make the recommendation on his own. So we'll always have kind of two agenda items. One is invoices for approval. The second will be a Vertex invoice. Nothing will be brought forward for approval if he doesn't agree with it in the first place. So hopefully it would become, any of you that are familiar with like the selectmen's agenda, hopefully more like a consent agenda, unless people have questions on those items. So with that, you are all in receipt of a letter with the supporting documentation. He is recommending an approval of $15,637.78 to 3 different vendors. One related to traffic study, 2 invoices, one to Lucas Environmental, which related to Conservation Commission review, and one to Pare Corporation, which related to water main design. Mr. Lemieux.
Just to clarify what you just said, one of those VHB invoices, we disagreed with a piece of it. So we recommended approval of the pieces that we.
Yes,
I mean, what you said is that I wouldn't bring it forward with a piece of that. But
for
we are-
approval, sorry.
Okay.
So I'm reading off of the approved column.
Gotcha.
Sorry, yes, thank you for clarifying that though. So, is there a motion, or sorry, let me just, before any of these, any questions on that make sense? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the invoices recommended for approval by Vertex?
I make a motion that we accept those as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll make you like easy and second it.
All right, Mr. Wood is second. Is there any further conversation? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. You were also in receipt of just a progress budget of who's been paid, what's been committed, et cetera. These all now reflect everything we did with value engineering. These will be provided on a monthly basis. My personal view is I didn't think there was a ton for conversation given how much detail we've gone into over the past couple months, but I think to the extent that you have recommendations going forward, right, as these numbers start to add commas and add in terms of volume, certainly bring them forward at these meetings. Any questions on project budget? All right, so I'm going to go back to radio and communication. Mr. Lemieux.
Thank you. So I don't have handouts for you yet at this point. I think at our next meeting we'll be in a good, probably final place. As you're aware, we're looking at replacing the infrastructure basically for the existing two-way radio system for police and fire. This does not include handhelds that everybody has on their person or have in their vehicles. This is just the equipment that goes into the dispatch center itself. It also, another item that's included as a separate piece of it is the actual dispatch furniture, the actual consoles that the equipment will then go on to. The whole idea of getting this conversation going now is we certainly don't have to buy this equipment now. We're still it's probably about a 9-month lead time for this, but we do need to know what infrastructure Context has to build into the building from the standpoint of conduits, other types of raceway, wire sizes, those kind of things, so that they give the radio manufacturer and installer, the right spots to put things, the right, wall space for any of that kind of equipment. So What the chiefs did is the chiefs reached out to a couple of companies. They reached out to Motorola Solutions and they reached out to Allcom. You may have heard of those names. Those are two competing providers. They are both on the video communication. The state bid list number, if you care, is ITT 57. That's the state bid list number for this kind of equipment. Basically, we have the ability to just go on that list and buy. Because we're not buying construction services, we can go and just buy it today. You know, it's that simple. So what the chiefs did is they contacted Allcom and Motorola, and we got pricing. We got initial pricing. And Allcom provided a solution, included a tower. Motorola didn't. There was some confusion that went back. Getting in touch with the deputy chief at Situate and talked to the gentleman that he used, Mr. Tim Gover, who is a Wellesley policeman, but he does this on the side. Tim came in, Tim looked at the proposals that were prepared by Allcom and by Motorola, and basically gave us his verbal opinion. You know, he came here for a few hours, read this stuff. You know, I haven't even gotten a bill for him. I'll be surprised if it's anything more than $500 to $700 for what he did, but it's what he does in his side time. He basically looked at this and basically figured that, you know, there were two solutions that provided. Motorola provided a all Motorola solution for all of the equipment. Okay, Allcom is more of a vendor. They don't sell their own stuff, so they were proposing a solution that's a combination of Kenwood. If you've ever heard of Kenwood, that is the stereo people. They also do radios and Tate, combination of the two. So I had the conversation with Tim to talk about, okay, what do you think? What's your gut feeling? Forgetting about price for a minute, because there is a price component to this, obviously. He looked at this and he felt that the solution that was provided by Motorola was probably the better solution for the town. Never mind the fact that the Allcom solution required a tower. They went back to Allcom and said, can you do this without a tower? And they said yes. Still, I'm not quite sold that what they've provided for pricing does that or will work entirely, but that's a different discussion. But where we are at the moment is a Motorola solution that would basically provide pre and post engineering services to the town so that we get it on both ends. All of the equipment that they talked about, and again, we have, this is the thickness of the Motorola proposal. It's pretty, pretty complete, I guess you should say. Lists every single component and what they would do. Allcom, same thing. And the price they're coming in at right now is $325,000. What we're looking at with...
When you say they, who?
Motorola, okay, Motorola. Right now, what we have in the budget is $150,000 in a technology and radio line item, $150,000 in a tower line item, and $40,000 in a radio tower design line item. We have $340,000, so we are under the budget. I will say that we still don't have his complete breakdown per the state bid list so that I can check every number. And again, we haven't asked him to really bid this yet. These are both kind of high-level estimates. The problem is we are getting close to having to have some conversation because I need their back-end engineering to tell context what to provide as far as an infrastructure. So we're kind of getting to a point where we have to commit to a degree. Motorola and Tim both say we can do it on the infrastructure that we have with the town. With the repeaters that we have currently in place, there's two. The Allcom solution, there was one concern that Tim had that talked about voting, the voting of the radios. In layman's terms, basically, as the car is driving down the road and someone's talking on the radio, the signal is bouncing from antenna to antenna. If the voting isn't good enough, there'll be a break when the signal goes from this antenna, you get closer to the next antenna, and it picks it up. Obviously, there's a breakdown, you lose part of the transmission, you guys can't have communications that break down. So that is the one big dig against the Allcom system, is that he feels that the voting will be a problem, okay? Allcom spoke to the chief and said they have a way around that, but again, these are the pieces that haven't been run to ground entirely yet. So the Allcom number, though, is a lot less than the Motorola number, but a lot,
Why aren't you giving us a number?
because I'm not convinced that it's a number that doesn't give you complete coverage right now.
Well, at least give it to us.
It's $100,000 less.
Can I ask you a question? Allcom initially said we needed a tower, then when you pressed them, they said we didn't need a tower. Initially, they said they had to do this voting issue, and when you pressed them, they said there was a way around it. I mean,
No, they said there's a way that they could fit, once we got the feedback from the consultant that said that the voting would be an issue, apparently the chief spoke to him.
Yeah.
And they said, no, they can make, if you're concerned about it, we can fix that.
Have you ever gone with Allcom before?
No,
Have you?
but
They have been on other projects in other departments, and I'm not sure, because as John's saying, they're a vendor, it's not like the system they're gonna propose here
Yeah.
is gonna be equivalent to anything they've ever done on
Every
any of
town's
the other
different.
jobs we've had. Could all be different.
Yeah, I think every town, right,
Yeah, I know.
they have to look at the geography.
But
of
Allcom has been
stations.
fine on other projects.
One other question, you said that these do not include any pricing for the handhelds.
we're not doing that. This job, the town bought handhelds 3 or 4 years ago. You don't need them.
Okay.
So when we talk about the radio solution for this project, it's what goes inside the public safety building only.
Okay, but we still need to make this clear. So chief, we are okay with the handhelds for a few years?
Mhm.
Okay?
The piece that we do potentially have an issue with are the repeaters, okay? The repeaters need some love. We haven't, because of the discussion we had just about the golf and doing anything not on the site, we haven't really talked too much about or gone after what would it take to replace the repeater. I think that there's a capital need for those repeaters to be serviced. There's two, there's one at, what are the two buildings?
They're both at EMC.
They're both at EMC?
Yeah.
So, there's a capital need there that the town is gonna have to.
With both vendors, we have a repeater issue, or just?
No, I think, the idea is you would use the repeaters that you have. I'm just bringing up that when we talk about useful life, those pieces of equipment are there, they work right now.
So we're not gonna get a new repeater with this?
No,
What's the
this
repeater
money
cost?
has, I don't know the answer to that.
Chief, do we have new repeaters in the capital plan right now, any place?
You had it in yours, Ken, to replace yours. I didn't put it in mine, but they'll be coming up.
I delayed it to see what's going on with this project, but I think they're good till about 2020. And I seem to recall that they're about $20,000 each. And we don't have any redundancy right now in case one went down. I think a plan, I forget who proposed it, would be maybe if the old ones still have some useful life, having them installed as a backup with the new one. So leaving them on there.
So,
But I mean, that's a whole different conversation. This
Right.
is just infrastructure
Let's-
is it gonna work with whatever we choose?
so I guess what I would like to hear from the chiefs is, putting price aside, are you two in agreement on a path forward with, if price was not an issue, which path would you be marching down? Be the same, different?
I'm in favor of keeping the equipment the same on the Motorola end.
So you would be in favor of going with whatever the Motorola vendor is?
Yes, we've had long discussions on this. Fire chief and his people have a lot more experience in this than I do, so if they feel Motorola is the best, I'm more than comfortable with it. It is a big name in the industry, that's for sure, and it would match our portables.
So hang on, so Mr. Rooney had his.
Yeah, question. If we went with Motorola, is there any way to negotiate, saying, listen, we wanna go with you, you're about $100,000 more than the other company. Is there a way that you can fold in the two new repeaters and some handhelds for us? So that you can somehow have a little bit less indigestion with that number? Can you negotiate?
I think
and
we
get
can't
more
even
stuff?
talk about the number. See, we haven't gone to them and said, here's, bid this yet.
Sharpen
you
your
know,
pencil.
yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
The short answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
As far as the repeaters, I don't know if we have enough information to do that. I would rather see the base number come down.
Sure.
You know, and start there.
Okay.
But I have no problem calling him and saying, look, this is what we got from Allcom.
Okay.
Why is this so much less?
Yep.
And hey, we bought umpteen radios from you 3, 4
Yeah.
years ago. Is that worth anything? I mean, this is like anything else. This was
Okay.
the first pass, and we're hoping that we could probably do better with this, but we are, you know, we're under budget. That being said, there are 2 other systems that we're gonna probably need in the building, or one that we will need and one that we may need, that kind of, where are they right now? One is the notification system, so that when a call comes into dispatch, and it's time to, you know, this thing that you heard on the speaker happen, that system isn't bought right now. Is that part of the construction number, or is that, you know, part of the radio number? Good question. And then the BDA system, which is the bidirectional amplifier, which is basically, why we need one of those is when the officers are in the detention area, as an example, an area that's very thick in concrete and steel, you know, the radio signal can get muted. So what's put up is basically a coaxial cable that runs throughout the building and an amplifier. And it's basically an antenna that runs through the building for their 2-way radios, so that if they are in a secure area and need help and they can't reach the panic button, they can click their radio and the dispatch will hear them. Just like you lose a call when you go into a parking garage, we don't want that happening within this building. The problem is you can't test for whether you need a BDA until the structure's up. So the coax is cheap, the box is expensive. The box is about $20,000, $25,000. So between that and the notification system, there's about $50,000 to $60,000 worth of other things that we haven't gone after yet that we need to be aware of.
So those 2 things could cost $60,000. You might need one, you need one. and you might
Definitely need
2.
one, you might need the other.
But
And so why don't we know whether they're in the construction number or not too? When we did the estimate, so it's not, obviously not a specific line item in that estimate?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
BDAs were in there.
Was the BDA in there?
Yep, and I'm just trying to, because it was part of the VE list at one point in time.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember if we took it out and like excluded it from consideration at any one point in time, or whether it was one that was chosen. Do you remember, Ellen?
So can we find out?
So we'll
Okay.
find out on that, but.
So you may or may not need the BDA. If we pulled it out, we don't know if we need it yet. My point is, I just want to make sure we keep that in the back of our head, that these are things that this is a may need item. You know, I don't want to go and cut $30,000 out of the building somewhere else, because we may have to buy it. I just want you to know that there are some, you know, there are some other pieces here that we need to make sure that we're, you know, keeping track of.
The paging, the notification paging system is definitely, in our opinion, it's almost always not part of the GC's scope. It's usually a vendor provided system, which I think you guys already know we go with. It's just a matter of plugging the numbers in.
So, can I make one more comment?
do I want to, I feel bad for Mike because I cut him off. Do you want us to read?
No, so I was just gonna clarify, you said both proposals have pre and post engineering, is that installed?
No, Motorola had it. I have not. I'm not sure Allcom has it.
Allcom doesn't have it, and is that installed or are those installed numbers?
Both are installed.
Both are
Yeah,
installed.
they don't just dump the equipment. Those numbers they're giving us are to come in and install it. Basically, the state bid list has item codes and it also has activity codes. And the activity codes are the actual installation, which is why I want to see Motorola's number. I want to see behind the veil
That
over
includes-
here so that I can match up item code to item code and see, look, Allcom is giving me this. The reality is, you know, we were talking to Chief, it's like, you know, Taser or any of these brand names in the corner of the market. You know, Motorola's a big name. You're paying for some of the fact for the Motorola name, I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, but there's a reliability that comes with that too, that you know that it works, you know that it's solid. So, as opposed to a solution that cobbled together is over, I don't wanna say that. As opposed to a constructed solution, they engineer it and do it all with their own materials. And you're paying a premium for that.
We know they're gonna be compatible.
Yes, well, but we know they're gonna be compatible, yes.
So, I'm just reading Jeff's facial reactions a little bit. Sorry if I read into it too much. We told him over a month ago that we were gonna have a decision on this, right? And to me, we don't have a final answer. Right, because you're saying you're still massaging some numbers.
Well, let me be clear, we don't need to buy this right now.
I understand that, but
But we need that.
I'm hearing, when we throw out numbers that are $100,000 apart, I think most members of this committee are gonna say, wait a second. We need to pause the bus, right? It's the first time anyone's hearing it. Most people up here don't have any radio experience, right? So I think at our last meeting, those that were here voiced an opinion that we need to rely on the chiefs for their professional judgment. But I do think at the end of the day, when you're talking 6 figures of difference, right?
We had this conversation before the meeting.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to be optically clear, and I'm reading Jeff's face, and please tell me if I'm reading into it too much. We are way beyond his deadline, and we are holding him up, right? Or are we getting pretty
I
darn
mean, I
close?
think, yeah, I would have, obviously, I'd like information as soon as I can get it, so.
Our next
One thing
meeting
that would have been great, but.
our meeting is not for another 30 days as of now.
So, the reality of what we're talking about is infrastructure from the mostly electrical side of things, so that we can put the conduits in the right spots. For the most part, our engineers know what needs to be there. So, if it takes a little bit longer to make a decision, it's not a big deal for us. I think we can accommodate it.
30 days?
Yeah, that's getting to about pretty much the end of it. The hang-up will be at the next cost estimate. If there's anything we didn't anticipate that now we need, that we have to add in, that probably won't be in the last cost estimate that we do. It'll be something that we have to either figure out after the fact and then tell you what the impact is, or it's just gonna come out of the design components or something like that. So that may be the only real impact that you see. It'll make it into the bid, it just won't.
What Motorola asked for was plans, floor plans, elevations, and the electrical plans. So that they can, you're asking them to do work on something you haven't given them to buy. You haven't bought from them yet, so that's part of the dance. I think that Manny at Motorola is willing to look at this, and if you've already kind of indicated, if GGD's already kind of indicated what needs to be there, that's a great start. What he's looking for is more now, here's where the radio room is, here's where the elevated floor is, and here's where I'm going to put those antennas that you already that we need on the building, and how do I connect the antenna through the infrastructure of the building. Conduits, we're not talking about 6-inch conduits, we're talking about a couple-inch conduits, to get from A to B. So I think,
I think the bigger thing is, how many radio antennas are we going to need on the roof? In other words, how long is our array going to have to be? How long is the run between it? And because they're going to want it as short as possible to keep the cable diameters down, which I think we already kind of anticipated. And do you have space in the radio server room for their equipment identified as appropriate? It's what they need, and I think we're probably okay there. So
we've identified, but we have the equipment list.
yeah, so I think we're good.
Is the infrastructure need for both systems about the same?
So the radio system for any building is pretty much going to be the same. Because really what we're doing is taking signals from a box, which is going to come from the dispatch stations in fairly small wires. But from the radio box up to the radio antenna, it's going to be a fairly big diameter cable, because it's in fact an antenna cable going out. And so that has to be planned out a little bit more precisely. And where the antennas sit themselves on the roof has to be planned out as well.
And
So
it's different for the different plans. And it could
so
be different
between
for
the two
different vendors.
manufacturers, I suspect that the engineering would be very similar for those parts.
So I gotta ask my question.
All right, then let's.
Mr. Mooney, I appreciate this one. So the Madison Place mitigation money that we spent on whatever you have right now, we're throwing that out completely? Is that what we're doing here? $300,000. So are we keeping some? I guess it probably includes the radios and handhelds, but the rest of it is just going to be tossed?
I would assume that some of it's going to get reused. Or can't get reused.
What did you buy?
As a spec.
Dispatch consoles?
Preceded, Chief Hollis,
Yeah, dispatch box. That's
How many?
But we spent every bit of that mitigation,
So
$300,000.
That was the question.
So let me help jog some memories here for a second. How many dispatch consoles are you pricing in your, do you know?
This isn't consoles. Consoles are a different line item. This is what's gonna sit on the consoles. This is all the.
So you're saying we have a separate line item for dispatch?
Correct.
Okay. So I think your 300,000 is probably mixing a couple of different things of how they use the money. Just to remind everyone of the conversation we had when we were trying to cut money last year, is I think the chiefs came back to the table and agreed that there's 3 dispatch locations in this new building, correct? And I believe you compromised and said 2 new dispatch consoles, 1 carryover from this station to the other station as a backup. And we were looking for any nickel or dime that we could find. So correct me if my recollection is wrong, but that was like the last change we made before we presented a number at town meeting. And that, to Mr. Hamilton's credit, that was him pounding the table for every last penny. And that was one of the options the Chiefs came back with at that time.
I think you do look at, when we priced it out, that the equipment, by the time we move into the new building, will be roughly 6 years old. And it has roughly a 9 or 10 year shelf life. So within 3 or 4 years, we'd be back at Capitol looking for a massive number to replace the whole system. I also think when you're looking at that number for mitigation, and that was before my time.
It was, totally agree.
But you're looking at, that was from what I understand, that was a one-stop price to gut that room, redo the infrastructure, redo the wiring, buy the portables, bring the new stuff in. So it isn't only just that equipment. And I did understand that there might be a market for, if we weren't going to use the systems, there would be a market for some type of trade-in or resale on them. I don't know if that still stands, but those are just some of the areas that we discussed before we went forward with going all new. So it would be a short period of time before we'd be back at Capitol, looking to replace the entire system in a new building.
Okay.
Mr. Rooney, then I'm going to go to Mr. Lit.
Yeah, I mentioned this at the last meeting, and maybe Jason to take your temperature on this. This is the type of component that I truly believe the town could approach St. Mark's and Faith about chipping in for communication. Over the course of the year, when I was on the Board of Selectmen, I did an analysis as to the services provided to all the nonprofits in town, and then went over to start negotiating an increase in the pilot payments. The communication that can be directly related to a lot of the functions that we provide to these schools. So I think that we should urge the selectmen, whether we do it by email or letter or something from this committee, asking them to make steps and approach the nonprofits in town, because if we can get them to pay for this entire communication system, which I don't think is a big ask, and because they're just going to put it out over a number of years, and they've been very receptive. Once if we can relate the project or the cost to a service that they're undertaking. So I would strongly urge this committee to do whatever it is in our power to ask the selectmen to go about and explore that path.
So,
Advisory agrees with you, and we've got that process started, so totally agree with that.
Okay.
but related to other needs in the town, or related to?
Probably a discussion held elsewhere, but the whole process.
So what I was going to propose, Kathy, and you tell me if we're going to be stepping on a process that advisory might already be doing, is given Mr. Rooney's familiarity with the issue, I was going to ask him to draft a letter, and then I would send it as chair on behalf of the entire committee, and suggest that both myself and him, given his familiarity, could appear at any of their meetings to discuss it. But if you think that would counteract anything that the town is trying to do, like I know like there was a ladder truck fund, et cetera. Like I don't know what the other I'm not familiar with the other capital needs of the town, so I don't want to be short-sighted and put the 300,000 communication system in front of, I don't know, $1 million ladder truck. Not suggesting you need another one, but I'm just.
Yeah, and given my knowledge about how they operate there, this 300,000 would be they'd want that donation to be satisfied for a number of years.
Right.
So that it would in fact put other expenses in the back burner.
Do you have a reaction to that, or do you want me to approach the advisory chairman, or do you want to raise it at your meeting on Wednesday night?
I just don't have the authority to speak for the committee, but I think the letter's a little premature
Okay.
with what is being planned at this point. I mean, I'll say, the town's got a budget problem, a big one, and we're trying to find a long-term solution, but we can't just, as you say, keep them can down the road. And one part of that solution is to try to increase steadily the pilot payments from those that don't contribute what may be deemed to be their fair share. And you were about to be approached with this, so I think the letter may be a little premature at this point, but I can talk to Mr. Mooney, and then if he thinks we still should do it, we can do it quickly.
So go ahead and approve that approach? Yeah, I just don't want to jeopardize anything else in town, but I think it's an excellent suggestion. All right, so you have that action item. Mr. Litt's been very patient. Do you have a question for us?
I have two things I can observe. One is in terms of the infrastructure that's impacted by radio and communications. Well, things that weren't mentioned were power and cooling, right? So you have to make sure that wherever you put this place, you have enough air conditioning and you have enough power to meet whatever it is they want. And so that feeds into your bid process. The other thing I wanted to mention, it's not clear to me from the discussion that you've had whether you've restricted your needs in the radio and communications to purely police and fire, or whether you've also thought about integration and interoperability with other radio needs in the town. I don't know if you have occasion to want to be on the DPW net or the facilities network or whatever other things may be going on. I know that when we finally get our technology committee together, those are some of the questions they'd be asking. But since that's delayed, I'm just putting them out to make sure you're thinking about it. Because
I can ask about the expandability of it, but I can tell you that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't been considering anything beyond public safety communications at this point.
at this point, I'm not suggesting it in terms of, let's go spend money. But we should at least be talking about it in terms of what might the needs be, and then there's the question of chasing the money and chasing the timing. But if you do something that rules it out,
No, I
that
think
would
it's a
be
fair
bad.
question to ask both vendors about the expandability of the solution.
And also interoperability with other radio use in the town. Like I say, this-
DPW has, in this year's budget request, a whole new radio system, so I'm glad you brought that up, so.
and you might want to share repeaters or.
So just to answer that, right now they're on low band, which we not used for police and fire for 15+ years. And we don't have the capability right now. If they got a new system, went to UHF, it's compatible with the equipment that we have, we'd be able to speak to them.
Right, but if you have a dispatch center, it's conceivable that you might want another radio that's on whatever band they're using.
We would be able to talk to them.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
And then the third and final thing that I tried to mention the last time I was here and had to run. There was in the news at the end of last year that the state is looking at upgraded public safety radio for communication among communities and with the state. And they're doing some kind of upgrade to digital radio. And I think it's important that you understand what's going on there and make sure that whatever you're doing fits.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just a
then I'm gonna
quick
try to wrap
question.
it.
The two companies, were they, one you said was a voting system and one you said was a repeating system, which are quite different. And I just wanted to make sure that they were
No.
comparing the same apples to apples,
No,
and
my
that's why the price
understanding
difference.
is the voting with the Allcom solution wasn't as good as the voting with the Motorola.
But they're both voting, or
What?
one's a repeating system, right? What
Well,
you have now is a repeating system.
Think of it like your cell towers. What happens is when you're on a cell phone and you're driving down the highway, your cell phone figures out what the closest tower is that has the strongest, signal strength, and you're in mid-word, it will move from you know, the tower that you're just leaving to the next one.
I'm very familiar with the voting system. I was in the design committee in Westboro, we have a voting system,
Okay.
but if you're talking a repeater system, it doesn't do that. There is no voting. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out what system you're going with. For a repeater system, it would be just directly to that tower. A voting system goes to several antennas, and then it figures out which one's stronger, and then it goes to the tower over a phone line or microwave or whatever. So I'm just wondering if Motorola came in with a voting system, which it would have several antennas around town, and then it would go through a
No,
phone
Mo-
line to a
No,
transmit.
Motorola came in with.
If they came with
the
repeat.
infrastructure, the infrastructure that's there. That's a clarifying question for Allcom.
So Allcom did the voting?
Yes.
So that's a much different system where a portable only has to transmit a short distance, just like a cell phone.
Well, don't forget, we have the repeater and there's voting that goes along there, because we have receiver sites. So we have a receiver site on Overlook, we have a receiver site here, and then we have the repeater that needs.
So they would, those two receiver sites vote on which one's stronger?
Yes.
And then they go, what, over
Yeah.
a phone line?
So, yeah. So, yeah, it's,
To the tower?
again, I'm not a radio expert, but it's a dual, you have repeaters, so the repeater is your main, and then you have receiver sites to cover areas that aren't as strong, or that would hit the repeater. And those are the two that we currently have right now.
It's a hybrid system.
So, John, we obviously need to bring this to a resolution. We're not ready to do it tonight. How would you propose we proceed?
Probably an interim meeting.
So will you let me know when you're ready for that?
Yeah, because we can't wait a month.
Okay. Now, I guess I'm somewhat torn, just speaking out, so they come with, I don't know that myself or quite honestly anyone up here should be dictating to the chiefs how to run their communications. I think this is a 10-year solution, not a 50-year solution. I think we're in charge of 50 years, but I think the numbers are eye-popping enough, right, that we're not doing our, right, like, so that's why I'm torn as a committee member, because part of me wants to just tell you to go work with the chiefs and figure it out, but I can't ignore the six-figure number that we're still, and I realize you're still massaging it, and that number may become a lot smaller.
These are list prices right now, they're not buy prices.
So I think, right, like, you might be able to make life easier, a lot easier for us at that next meeting. Are you gonna have anything for us? Assuming planning and conservation goes well,
No,
there's
I mean, at
nothing-
this stage, we were always anticipating less frequent meetings with you because there are just less decisions for you to make about the plan.
When I get the info, I'll share it with you. At that point, you can decide.
I'm not making a decision for 9 people. I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you right now,
You can decide when the meeting
I'm
will
not
be.
falling on that sword. I will decide when the meeting will begin. So I guess, is everyone comfortable with that
Sure.
process forward? We can all come and say defer to the chiefs, but I don't, unless someone's ready to do that tonight,
We're gonna shoot for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right, do you wanna plan on 2 weeks from tonight?
Let's put
Or
it
do
in.
you wanna wait and let me know, like, think about it and let me know?
Well, it's either gonna be, yeah.
Maybe tie it in with your new committee whenever you're meeting with them. We'll meet before and then we'll meet.
So that would likely be the 29th or the 30th. So that's not 2 weeks, that's 3. Because those responses are due the 24th. And if we have to push it a couple of days because of the newspaper ad, that's 26th. The following Monday is the 29th. So
I'm only in a rush to make a decision if this guy says he needs it.
I'm with you.
Because otherwise,
What I'm
I don't
hop-
really care when we make the decision.
What I'm hoping though is I'm gonna get Manny what he's looking for and hope that I get some feedback from him and see what that feedback jives with what he's talking about. So from the standpoint of infrastructure, I'll have the conversation with Allcom as well.
All right, so
You know.
why doesn't the committee let me know they have a preference on which week it is? And we'll go based on that, and I'll let you know by tomorrow what day we've chosen. And we'll go from there. Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, again, if I'm just speaking for myself, then I'm speaking for myself, but and I don't wanna be too critical, but we've just spent the better part of 20-25 minutes talking about numbers that aren't even finals. I think it would be helpful moving forward that before we have these types of discussions, we get the final number.
But you're not buying it yet. You're talking about a radio that you're not gonna install for a year and a half.
This is gonna change.
We can't buy this for 9 months, because you don't wanna buy it until you know what the bid
Yeah, I
price is for the
understand
building.
that, but in terms of sharpening the pencil, that can be done now.
But it still won't be a commitment, because I would never ask you as a committee to authorize a purchase
Yeah.
before the building is, because look, if the building comes in high, we may have to, like both vendors, Motorola said it, I said, could we get away with what we have? Yeah, that's $300,000 worth of money that if the bid for some reason comes in high, it's something that's on the table. So that's why, believe me, I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I appreciate it. The reality though is I can get it sharper, but it's still not gonna be a buy price, it's like anything else. Are you here with a check from me today to buy the car, or are we just still doing the dance?
Yeah.
So we can dance a little bit more and see if we can get the number better. I can do that.
He hasn't been appointed yet. He hasn't been sworn. So, do you have a proposal? Are you trying to avoid trying to have another?
No, I'm not trying to avoid having another meeting, I'm just thinking
Right.
our time is
It's a time
better
better.
spent.
Yeah, I agree.
I appreciate
I
that.
completely agree. All right, so just so I know how to move this meeting, how many are headed to the townhouse? If we have a quorum, we need to recess. If we don't have a quorum, we need to adjourn. So I am headed to the townhouse. Townhouse? Townhouse?
Townhouse.
All right, so I see a quorum moving, so is there a motion to recess and restart our meeting at the start of the planning board hearing at the Southborough Townhouse?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? All right, we are in recess.